Have you ever wondered why some little girls grow up naturally drawn to feminine, nurturing, caring, soft and gentle activities, while others become tomboy, climbing trees, riding motorcycles, combat training, throwing themselves off cliffs, and engaging in otherwise risky, masculine endeavors not typically associated with feminine softness? Why some little boys are calm, focused, and grounded, while others become rebels, challenging status quo and authority, and engaging in reckless behaviors. If you thought this was simply a fluke or some random genetic programming, you'd be wrong. We are trained, groomed, and shaped to become what we are by our environment, and predominantly our early life environment. Our brain is an accumulation of impressions taken along the course of our journey. These impressions are processed, integrated, and organized as a mainframe computer software programming, shaping our beliefs, our thoughts, actions, and reactions, creating what we call our personality, and thereby weaving the tapestry of our destiny. Our very first years are the most critical in the development of our overall physical, mental, and emotional functioning. The number of little girls I have worked with over the years, trapped in adult women's bodies, who grew to develop strong masculine inclinations, becoming warriors, engaging in masculine behaviors, endangering their lives, have almost always one thing in common: the rejection, physical, mental, or emotional abandonment from their mothers. Robbed of the ability to experience the tender, gentle, nurturing, loving bond that leads to developing our feminine depth and richness. There's also a harshness that is noticeable. I see it in their eyes, but maybe it's just me because I recognize their pain in a deep, emotional, somatic, and subconscious manner. A daughter's identity is shaped in large part from the experience she has with her mother, the behavior she observes, the quality of the relationship. Repetitive exposure to trauma and toxic stress, especially at an early age, increases the probability of both residual effects and addiction to trauma. When I initially discovered clinical research on trauma addiction years ago, it literally blew me away, exploding some giant light of understanding inside my brain, in that it finally brought clarity to the patterns I had experienced in my own life and witnessed in the lives of so many others with similar backgrounds. As I'm filming this today, I was not able to find anything on YouTube about trauma addiction, in spite of a plethora of materials on both trauma and addiction. So there you go. Now we'll have something on a subject which I believe is critical to our ability to understand, address, and relieve our symptoms in our quest to reconquer our truth, wellness, and success. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I'm Genvièv, forensic and clinical hypnotherapist, board-certified instructor with the NGH, and emergency medicine first responder with the Wilderness Medicine Institute. I spent my life researching brain plasticity and brain rewiring in response to trauma, abuse, toxic stress, and extreme adversity to survive and thrive and develop formulas for success and wellness. So what is trauma addiction? Very simply, it is the result of a physiological and psychological conditioning which accustoms our brain to function within a pattern of hormonal levels produced under high toxic stress. When exposure to the initial trauma ceases, the hormonal levels produced by the brain change. and a compulsive need to replace the danger, exposure, and excitement experienced in order to restore what was then becoming a standard hormonal mix within the brain may be felt. Trauma addiction is therefore a physiological withdrawal symptom. In order to comprehend the nature of this addiction, we first need to understand what happens to our brain and body while under high toxic stress. There are physical, hormonal, and chemical changes that take place when we enter into the realm of the nervous system's fight or flight reaction. Number one, our senses sharpen, our pupils dilate so that we can see more clearly even in darkened areas. Our hair raises. That sensation of your hair standing on end is making us more sensitive to our environment and is also part of the animal's survival mechanism designed to make us appear larger. Our cardiovascular system leaps into action, heart pumping faster, going from 1 to 5 gallons per minute. Our arteries constrict to maximize pressure and ease the flow of blood to the heart. Our respiratory system kicks in. Lungs, throats, nostrils open up to accelerate breathing into the system and oxygenate the blood flow. The deeper breathing capacity also enables us to scream more loudly. Fat from our bellies, from our fatty cells, and glucose from our liver metabolizes to create instant energy, shutting down the blood vessels and kidneys to the digestive area are constricting in order to shutting down all non-essential parts, reducing potential blood loss in the event of injuries sustained. This, by the way, leads us to a reduction in saliva, which you may have experienced if you are, let's say, under high stress giving a public presentation and notice the sensation of dry mouth, also leading to a tendency for bowels and bladders to release, reducing the need for internal actions and also potentially dissuading attackers in the event of a critical life threat. Our sweat glands open up, providing extra cooling to our overworked system, which is why our skin then becomes pale, cool, and clammy. And we experience a down regulation of our prefrontal cortex area, that thinking, planning, plotting part of the mind, that allows us to spring into subconscious action rather than engaging in the luxury of analytical thoughts, judgments, and other considerations. On a chemical and hormonal levels, endorphins are released, our natural body painkillers to prepare for potential injuries, not to get in the way of our escape and survival efforts. Endorphins are not simply painkillers, they also reduce anxiety, rage, depression, and fear. They are vital to attachment behavior from birth to death. They increase when social support increases and decrease when social support is withdrawn. And not surprisingly, given their powerful analgesic and calming effects, large amounts of endorphins are released as an integral part of the fight or flight response. Adrenaline is also released from our adrenal glands and central nervous system, acting as a chemical mediator and conveying the nerve impulses to our various organs. Adrenaline allows our system to rapidly enter the fight or flight response, making it possible for us to spring into vigorous and sudden action. Stress also stimulates the release of the steroid hormone known as cortisol, which alters our body's metabolism. The combination of massive amounts of endorphins, adrenaline, and cortisol constitutes a potent chemical and hormonal cocktail being flooded and circulated into our system. If the stress experience is ongoing and sustained, our system will become accustomed to functioning within these specific chemical and hormonal levels. They become the norm. So when the stress suddenly becomes relieved, our body goes into opiate withdrawal syndrome that is similar to heroin withdrawal. We become anxious, irritable, depressed, and overall miserable. Subconsciously, a sudden radical shift in brain chemistry will prompt us to take action entirely without conscious awareness to restore the flow of endorphins, adrenaline, and cortisol that we have become accustomed to functioning with. What we end up doing then will depend upon what we have access to and what we are experienced with. Toxic stress accustomed children, for instance, in a classroom will find it impossible to tolerate a calm atmosphere and resort to antagonizing others, for instance, until the stress levels is high enough for them to regain the degree of internal equilibrium they have grown accustomed to. Violence experienced at home will lead to violence, fighting, bullying, acting out, and other forms of criminal behaviors, as violence is exciting and stressful and will replicate the known internal chemical and hormonal balance. Some will resort to self-mutilation in order to ignite an endorphin release from the body and feel that calming response. Others of us will engage in high-risk behaviors, extreme sports, extreme competitive endeavors, take high-risk jobs, or seek other forms of recreation in order to replicate the high that we were trained to function under toxic stress. When people talk about the high they experience from risking their lives, this is precisely where the roots stem from. In many ways, it is our opportunity to overcome and defeat the helplessness that we were forced to endure as little ones by taking control. No one else is hurting us then, threatening us, or risking our lives anymore. We are now playing with life and death ourselves. We become in charge. And this is very sad because it continues demonstrating the curse of the black sheep scapegoat character assassination casted upon us in early childhood by abusers. In other words, we were programmed to self-destruct, to be eliminated from the gene pool, allowing the parent to retain and preserve only their chosen golden child. My research colleague Patrick Glancy, who is a psychotherapist and clinical hypnotherapist in Australia nowadays, became infuriated initially years ago when a US psychologist first exposed to me the theory of children programmed to self-destruct by their caretakers. Because when he did, I realized, stunned, that he was talking about me. And it literally stopped me in my tracks. Patrick's outrage came from the fact that when I realized, in complete disbelief, that I had been programmed to self-destruct, subconsciously, like all victims of early life abuse, my initial response was to submit, to give in, to believe that if I was not chosen to live, then maybe I shouldn't live. And that is a reaction that many of us will have. If my own caretaker, if my own parent did not want me to live, then why should I live? Well, in response to this, I will direct you to my previous videos on surviving childhood trauma and narcissistic abuse, and to the words of Max Herman, reminding us that we have a right to be here, like the trees and the stars, and to ancient anthropological medicinal practices demonstrating that more than genealogy, more than blood, what we are is energy. We are a part of the expression of life, and therefore we can cleanse and restore our wholeness, no matter the harm that was done unto us by abusers. We have the capacity within ourselves to turn this around. The answers are always within. In my practice, I teach those who work with me to become adversity athletes and master the art of bending and shifting reality. When you learn to master the power of your own mind, of your own energy, you begin to understand that everything is energy and therefore capable of being shifted. And we can turn post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth. And here are some words of wisdom from Rocky Balboa. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It is a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are. It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently, if you let it. You, me, and nobody is going to hit as hard as life, but it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. So here are your action steps. Number 1, as always, education, because understanding our symptoms is the number 1 step towards conquering them. Then there are simple steps we can take instantly and naturally to boost our endorphin levels without compromising our safety. We're all familiar with what is called runner's high, that overwhelming sense of ecstasy we feel when we train or run with high intensity. Endorphins are responsible for that. Our brain naturally produces these neurotransmitters in response to pain or extreme exertion to take the edge off. It generally makes us feel amazing, really amazing. Expert actually compares endorphins to opiates because they deliver intense pleasure. So here are simple action steps that you can take in order to ignite the production and release of endorphins in your body. Number 1, I always say that, exercising. Working out stresses our system, so our brain pumps out more endorphins in response. Number 2, teaming up in our workouts. Studies found that athletes who rode together could tolerate twice as much pain as athletes who rode alone. The very sign they doubled their endorphins level. Working out with others boosts the flow of endorphins through our system. Number 3, laughing until it hurts. Laughing ignites the release of endorphins, increasing our pain threshold. So we can literally go ahead and laugh until we hurt in the belly. Number 4, having passionate sex. Passionate lovemaking, as we well know, releases a flood of endorphins and a cocktail of other good-feeling chemicals in our brain and body, such as the love hormone known as oxytocin, which serves as a buffer to toxic stress, reduces inflammation in the body, and makes us feel all around on top of the world. Acupressure, acupuncture, there are thousands of acupressure points on the skin surface alone where it is natural for blockages to occur. These blocks of energy can slow down our performance. Acupressure will stimulate these points, instantly increasing blood circulation and causing the body to release endorphins and oxytocin as well in response. Research also shows that pain response triggered by acupuncture sends a message straight to the brain to ignite the release of endorphins as a remedy. Aromatherapy as well, and we teach all that in my practice. Acupressure and aromatherapy is shown to release stress, enhancing deeper senses of wellness in the body, enhancing our quality and length of sleep, and allowing us to become overall more rested. Scientific studies show that aromatherapy allows nerve cells to release a mix of neurotransmitters, including endorphins. It's important, however, to work with a medical expert on this, a scholar, a herbalist, since Aromatherapy and essential oils have powerful, potent, transformational potency in our body and physical body. So it is important to be guided by someone who has done the research and who can allow you to learn this modality in a safe and efficient manner. Another step is to make music. We all know that music is good for our soul, spirit, health, energy, happiness, and motivation. However, what you may not be fully aware of is that actively taking part in creating music ignites even more of a flood of endorphins in the brain and body. Eating our favorite foods, of course, eating foods that we love prompts the brain to release endorphins, immediately elevating our mood. And there are specific foods that are known to produce endorphin levels and release in the body. Chocolate is one of them because cocoa contains mood boosting substances such as phenethylamine, and an organic compound that gives our body an endorphin mood boost, and theobromine, a chemical that suppresses pain so we can feel more pleasure. Spicy food, hot peppers ignite heat in the body, and our brain will respond in the same way that it responds to pain, endorphin release activated. Other endorphin producing foods include strawberries, animal proteins, oranges, grapes, nuts and seeds, and ginseng. Red wine, it is called happy hour for a reason. Red wine in moderation has long been known for its health benefits due to its concentration of polyphenols, particularly resveratrol, which is present in the skin of grapes. Red wine is also packed with antioxidants, flavonoids, tannin, with resveratrol, fight aging by restoring collagen and elastic fibers, allowing our skin to stay youthful longer. These antioxidants also reduce inflammation, which, as we know, is a marker for the progression of heart disease. So now, while a little bit of alcohol, and especially red wine, stimulates endorphin production, drinking too much or taking actual opiates provides artificial pleasure that leads our brain to stop producing endorphins, thereby killing our natural buzz. So again here, moderation is key. Remember, we are in this together. The very reason I am able to help others is because I am in the same boat as each and every one of you. It is from the ashes of my own collapses, from the pain and obliteration of my physical, mental, and emotional resources that I identified keys to recovery. So stay strong. Remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from indomitable will. Our ferocity of intent can and will move mountain and alter our reality when we make the commitment to focus our mind, our energy, with determination, optimism, and toughness. And from our greatest challenges will emerge our greatest gifts. So again, thank you for tuning in, everyone. If you haven't already done so, do subscribe to this channel. Become a part of our community. Become a part of this army of light and truth that we form, where we stand together. Share our stories, share your comments underneath the video, and join us on this mission to become stronger and to shine brighter.